Oh my gosh, dog. Hey, and we are live. What's
And
good,
we
brother?
are
There we go.
alive.
Man, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I lived to fight another day after my battle, my long lasting battle against Chipotle. They tried to kill me,
They
but
tried
they
to get
couldn't.
you? They tried to
Oh,
get you?
they did their damnedest, man. They did their
Man,
damnedest. They
man, bro. When Chipotle gets you, it don't let
oh
go.
oh when Chipotle gets you, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap,
I
it's a
learned
wrap,
that
bro.
the
It's
hard
the new
way.
Taco Bell, man.
Oh my gosh, man. I thought Taco Bell packed a punch. Like that's like Chipotle is like the final boss, man. Like, oh my god.
The final balls. Dog, hey, man. What up, though, Chuck? Oh my gosh, he said, "Want my money back?" They failed. Oh my god.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Woodward Pistons Table Talk with
Get
the
it.
two foundational, with the two people always here each and every week. Myself, Sean Murphy, and my boy
Hey.
Kool-Aid, my guy. It's good to see you. It's good to be here for another table talk. And
Yeah.
we're coming at
So
you a
it's
little
cooking
bit
that
later
super.
tonight because we have a late start with the Pistons as a whole. Detroit will be going up against the Los Angeles Clippers at 10:30 our local time. They are going to be playing at the crypto.com arena, which, by the way, they have that name locked in for 20 years, even though it kind of sounds like crypto's dead, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, folks, this is what we're Business Table Talk Reach. Every week we come talk all things Detroit basketball. We bring it to the table and we bring it to be discussed. If you like that, be sure you like that. Be sure you subscribe to the channel. Be sure you follow us on I used to say on Twitter, but like I don't know which one to say anymore because like I went on Twitter after waking up from a nap to find out that Twitter employees don't even have badge access anymore. I don't know if we're all joined in MySpace now. I don't know if we're all joined in Tumblr now. I have no idea what we're doing, but follow us on whatever socials you
Everywhere you
can
can
find
find
us
Woodward
on.
Pistons from half court, everything we're doing, man. Woodward Sports. Let's get it. Just so that
Yeah.
we can survive this Twitter apocalypse that is upon us. You know.
Man.
Oh, and one more note before we get into it. Hey, Batman, any Batman fans out there, I know that you guys have probably heard the news of the passing of the legendary voice of Batman, Kevin Conroy. I had to make sure we said something today because that
Yeah.
definitely got me right here.
He's
Little
the
kid
GOAT.
me, man, that got me right here. So I was just like, you know what? I told you guys before, that was like my Batman as a kid when staying with grandma out in Inkster, growing up, going to Peterson Warren Academy out there on Sylvia. I'm telling y'all, that was about the only thing. Everything else was fuzzy cable. It was just fuzzy TV, no cable. That channel that Batman came on, Scooby Doo and all that. Yo, that was it.
Yeah, man.
So, when I realized that Kevin Conroy years later that was the voice of Batman, I got clued into a lot of the stuff that he was doing in life and other works. And good dude. So definitely, man. Prayers up and asking for definitely comfort and condolences to his family. So definitely wanted to make sure we stated that. But hey, I'm seeing some of the some regulars in here.
Yeah. What's going
Definitely.
on,
Shout
everybody?
out Bashir. Shout out 3M Right. Obviously, your nemesis Chuck.
No, Chuck's the real OG, man. Appreciate him a ton. Appreciate him a ton.
MySpace. Oh my God.
Music on my MySpace page slaps. Oh my
Dude, but yeah,
god.
no, it's been a while. Look, y'all, we took a little break last week. It's been a start to the season. It really has.
Yeah.
A lot of different moving parts. Still a lot of stuff on the way. We got some new shows coming. We got some new content coming. You guys will be seeing Mr. Terry Foster's face on this channel a little bit more, kind of throughout. He'll also be making some stops to the table talk as well to keep things crazy. You guys already understand and know what the deal is. If Uncle T Foss doesn't chaperone us, things get wild. What did he say?
Trouble.
He did to the studio?
Yeah, he was saying that people were leaving stuff in the studio. He was like, "Man, yo, young fellas," and I was like, "Terry, I wasn't even here that time. Like I didn't even know these people, and you're accusing me of all this stuff." Man, Terry, he's just
shout
he's
out
a
to
wild
Terry
man,
Foster, man, the legend, definitely. Hey, here you go.
Man, if I was flying to LA for the game, my ass would not be here right now. I'd be in the terminal. I would be at the arena. I would be seated with my popcorn and my fizzy drink. I'd be ready to go. But man,
I feel like you're at the arena right now.
I wish we could be flying out to that game right now. But I mean, hey, we're here instead. We're in the beautiful Michigan winter. It's snowing already. Remember when it was like 70 degrees a week ago? Literally a week ago. And now it's snowing. Like, we just accept that that's a normal reality.
It is snowing outside, isn't it? It's just like, goodness gracious, bro. We're here.
The Pistons start to the season has pretty much been how sporadic it's been outside weather-wise. That's if that can't be described better, I don't know. I don't know.
Same as last season too. Same as last season, and that's what's interesting. As we get into this Pistons talk is, it's not what the season has started off the way that the organization threw out the gauntlet. They started off stating we're here to compete every night. They stated no blowouts. They were healthy at the time they stated this. Killian Hayes was looking like he was going to be a most improved player candidate, not anywhere near the winner, but at least somewhere in the conversation. At the time, it was looking like Saddiq Bey and Cade Cunningham. All they had to do was kind of just work through this aspect of Saddiq Bey learning how to play with less weight, Cade Cunningham learning how to play with more weight. We didn't know what we were going to get with the rookies, but we knew that Jaden Ivey was looking special. Everything that's ensued since has just kind of been more or less a repeat of last year. Cade a little hobbled, some injury issues, really, no big to play pick and roll with, no seasoned big to play pick and roll with, like Marvin Bagley wasn't here until middle of last year. It just kind of eerily reminds me of last season. And then, you got the injury to Isaiah Stewart, which is kind of why he's playing some of his best basketball. Whether you believe he should be starting or coming off the bench, no matter what you think, he was playing good basketball. And I believe he was one of the more, probably the most, one of the more dynamic, versatile pieces they had to be able to play both ways, offensively, defensively. And I've started to really, at these games, especially at the home games where I'm able to just sit there and key in and look and hear what other people are saying and media and all that, is just look at what he's doing every single second. And Stu takes literally no plays off. So, I said this on the Wilbur Pistons podcast, man. Look, though, I don't believe any of these guys are really, taking any plays off. Stu is just on a whole different level energy-wise, man. He's bouncing around and all this. And it's just, that's going to be something I think is going to affect the Pistons a lot more than we know. Unless, somebody we're going to talk about a little bit later, Jalen Duren, is a little bit further ahead than we thought. But,
he's the heart and soul of the team. He's Cade Cunningham's the franchise player, but I think Isaiah Stewart is the tone setter of the franchise and of the culture, right? And I think, we talk a lot about, Jalen Duren's effort that he brings on both ends. And don't get me wrong, Jalen Duren brings it on both ends, but no one brings it to the level that Isaiah Stewart brings it each and every play, each and every night. So, Isaiah Stewart literally injured himself on an effort play. Right. So
bro, then ran himself off the court.
Yeah.
It's like, sheesh.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those situations too, where, by the way, it's funny. We've been talking all this time about, how valuable it's going to be once they get Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks back in the lineup, like how much it's going to help the team and like how that's going to help them be even more competitive. We see them, Burks and Burks and Bagley in their very first game in the lineup combined for 30 points, which we literally have been saying that those two guys are a career 30 points a game combined each and every night. Like, that's going to help our bench big time, right? The second those guys come back, Cade and Isaiah Stewart get injured. Like, you can't make that stuff up. And like this type
Bro.
of team, like this type of team that, even though they're talented, the margin for error is just not there. And that's the thing. Like, they can't afford these types of injuries, if they want to truly be competitive. And like, even though I think if you look at like obviously if you look at the schedule or like you look at the game log, you see a lot of losses, but like you can see it's heading in the right direction. Like, there haven't been nearly as many blowouts of late. Like, sure, you still got blown out by 16 to Boston, like in Boston. But then you turn around, and ever since it's been single digit games. It's been competitive, even though they've been trailing for big parts of the game. And there's things that they're doing that are causing themselves, to essentially put themselves out of position to win by like doing simple things like hitting free throws, which a coach can't help you do, missing threes, which a coach can't help you do. A coach can put you in the position to make a lot of threes. He could drop a lot of plays that get you open looks. He can't make shots for you, right? Like and I think,
and furthermore, Troy Weaver, he's got to get more 3-point shooters on this team, more consistent, reliable 3-point shooters. He's got.
I think our lack of, I think our lack of wing depth has been on full display with the just with the absence of Jeremy Grant, who, by the way,
Talked all summer about this, brother.
Which, by the way,
where's it at?
The way, I feel pretty damn vindicated with how great Jeremy Grant has been and how exceptional and how big of a role he's played in the Portland Trailblazers being the number 1 team in the Western Conference.
Bro, look, I remember when we were doing the draft show when Jeremy Grant got traded and all that, and we had to start the show with that news. And we did the song to him and everything. And people were like, man, why y'all even spending time on this guy? And it was like, we went all summer trying to tell people we're underestimating the loss of Jeremy Grant. 6'9", 7'3" wingspan. You look at this roster now, there is nobody between like 6'7", 6'8"-ish, and then that 6'10", 6'11". There's nobody in between there. No wings. And you look at other teams that are in the playoffs. You look at other teams that have a chance. And they have a guy or two that fits that mold and can play both ways. Your top guys are going to have the elites like that. Obviously, Giannis is kind of a unicorn, obviously a unicorn in that regard. But the Pistons needed a guy like that. And when the teams that have those types of guys, the correlation is that they're generally better teams. The Pistons are getting dominated from the wing position on defense, and I believe it's putting too much stress. It was already putting too much stress when it was just Stewart down there. Casey talked about it. Bojan Bogdanovic needed to be in a different role. He cannot guard forwards. He can't be down there getting bumped and banged and all this. It wasn't good for him. It wasn't good for our team. It wasn't good for the defense. It wasn't good for rebounding or anything.
And just lengthwise, it just wasn't the best lineup to have both him and Saddiq at the same time. And we've all said it literally from night one, right? Like the second this lineup was put together, we knew the fatal flaw. Right. But it was what they needed to do because of who they had available at the time. Right.
I assumed Bojan was going to come off the bench. And I want to say what up before we get into this part of the conversation, because I know we can get into it. I want to say what up to Carl Collins, man. What's good, brother? And we got some stuff on the way. We're Pistons, Carl Collins. It's going to be pretty dope.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, bro. And shout out to the rest of the Table Talk crew. Steve, I know he's out there. He's being a good Samaritan right now. Steve, man, he's just a saint. Wherever you are, Steve, brother, we love you. Lexi, shout out to her. I know Michigan, their season football and basketball is in full swing of things. She's covering it. Shout out to her as well. Man, who else? Who else we need to shout out? Anybody else? All the Woodward Sports.
Yeah, just everybody, man.
Cam, Jeff. Definitely Jeff.
Oh,
but yeah. Wanted to make sure we at least shout out our crew before we move forward or whatever.
Absolutely, man.
Yes, sir. But Saddiq or Bojan, man, that was one that when we first when they first made the trade, I just assumed Bojan was coming off the bench to provide a scoring punch because I didn't believe that his defense fit traditionally what Casey liked to have in his starting lineups. It just didn't seem like it was the type of guy that, at that wing position, at the 3 or the 4, that's where he generally goes. especially when what he's talking about is defense, 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 and you are what you defend. That's a statement that Casey states. So when I saw Bojan come in, I was like, nah, there's no way they're putting Saddiq on the bench. There's no way at all. Now, am I against it completely? I think that there's a world where it works, and I think that there's a world where it doesn't. A lot of us sat here and said, we believe in Saddiq Bey, but we think for this team to be great, Saddiq Bey might be the fourth best option on this team. And sometimes those guys come off the bench as like a six man. So I'm okay if the team is put together like that. But while the team is constructed like this, it gets a little bit funny when you see Saddiq Bey, who has what I believe to be better defense on the bench, and I believe somebody who is not as instant offense as Bojan Bogdanovic. I believe Bojan can come in any situation and kind of be hot. That's just his offense. He doesn't even need to warm up. He looked like one of those guys, bro, that can come in out the cold. He don't need to stretch. Got the sweats on and everything. He just takes a few dribbles, shoots it a few times, and then he's good to go. That's Bojan. But Saddiq,
yeah,
he's a guy, Villanova guy, older than really a lot of the other younger guys. He's the guy that got to come in and stretch a little bit, get warm a little bit. And then if he's not on, that could be a long night. That could be a really long night. When I walk into these games and I'm getting over the media and, we're walking courtside and all that, and we're able to take the videos and stuff, I'm seeing Saddiq Bey practice, shoot. He's making it. We've posted these videos a couple times, Sean. I see him making it. Then they sit him on the bench. He's not that type of player. Not for this junction right now, at least for me. I get the idea. Like I said, I can get the idea, but the way the team is constructed right now, to me, it seemed like it made sense to probably bring Bojan off the bench, but I need your thoughts on it, man.
Well, I mean, let's just state the reason why Bojan's starting and why Saddiq isn't. And it comes down to the fact that to start the season, Bojan's been the better player. Bojan's been the more consistent player from beyond the arc. He's been the more consistent player on the offensive end. And Saddiq, even though he might be like better on defense, it might not be that big of a difference. It might be marginal as far as like the defensive difference between Bojan and Saddiq. I don't think Saddiq's been that great on the defensive end. And especially, I think you've seen his ability more and more to, add to his offensive game, drive to the lane, get to the free throw line, add that part of his game so that when his shot isn't falling, that he could still add something and be productive in the grand scheme of the game. But I think it's just been a real struggle this season with Saddiq specifically, as far as, for one, that the consistency that we talk about all the time with him, right? But then also just being able to add that extra punch. I think a big thing that, like, another piece of, like, the discussion that's like underrated with Saddiq is, not only was it an adjustment with Jeremy Grant coming out of the lineup, but also with guys like Jaden Ivey coming into the lineup, obviously Bojan coming into the lineup. Like there's a lot more guys on this team as currently constructed that like need the ball to operate, like in order to operate, need the ball in their hands. And so, like, I think with Saddiq in particular, especially, with the struggles that we're having on the defensive end, in my opinion, like, obviously, like, having Marvin Bagley coming into the starting lineup with the size and the length that he brings just makes a ton of sense. And, like, I think if Saddiq, I think Saddiq can thrive in that, like, type of role of in a lot of people, like, see coming off the bench as a demotion, which I understand why. But I mean, Saddiq, like, coming off the bench, is still going to play like 30 plus minutes a game, is still going to be like one of the focal points of the offensive, like on the offensive end for this team. It's just done with the second unit. Right. And I think, especially when we're talking about getting a shot going and like talking about like getting confidence going on that end, I think him playing with the second unit can help with that. And I expect that, that I think with Saddiq's shot, I think it's going to be a lot like last year where, we see that it's slow to get going, but as the season goes on, he starts to build his confidence and really get his rhythm going. I think we'll start to see that here soon. But I think ultimately, like with why they went with the decision that they did, Bojan's just been better. He just has been.
I think from a 3-point shooting standpoint, from scoring, definitely that from that standpoint, from scoring consistency, actually from behind the arc, because Saddiq Bey has been pretty consistent scoring free throws and inside the paint. where
It's just been
things
really
get
inefficient
tough.
though.
His scoring in the paint and free throws hasn't. It's just when he starts shooting threes, you'll see him go 1 to 7 from three, but only miss maybe a couple shots from inside the 3-point line. When you look at his overall field goals and such, and so it's not necessarily inefficient because he's taking good 3-point shots. If he was jacking and taking shots that were bad, if he was taking shots that weren't really within his wheelhouse, then I would be like, yeah, you know what, these things are inefficient shots or inefficient play. He's just not hitting a 3-point shot. It was like 18.5% or something like that on a year over a certain specific stretch.
Mhm.
I did bring up his
He's
stat.
only been 30% on the year.
Yeah, 30% a year. I believe over like the last 5 or something, it was like 18.5% from three. That's what's hurting his game is that, you know, he worked on diversifying his game. And what was working for Saddiq Bey earlier in the season that I noticed changed in his last 5 games is instead of taking that 2, 3, 4 threes a game and realizing, yo, if I've missed the first couple, let me rely on the diversity to my game. He hasn't been doing that as much. He's kind of increased some of the volume of shots as he's gone and increased that usage with the bench. And instead of kind of relying on, you know what, I've added to my handles, I've added to my ability to drive, I've added to my ability to get down into the paint, I've added to my ability to even draw fouls. I looked at his free throw rate, man. You know, for Saddiq Bey, it's up on the year, way up on the year.
Oh,
He's
definitely up.
41, almost 42%. Last year was at 22%. So he's getting to the line. It's just a matter of stop settling into just taking threes. Like early in the season, we were talking about, hey, Saddiq Bey only had 10 points, but he only took 4 shots. Now I'm sitting here looking, if he has 10 points, I'm like, whoa, he took 15 shots and he was 1 to 7 from 3.
Right.
You know, he just got to get that under control. It helps Saddiq, it helped Stu too. We talked about it earlier in the season. Take 1 to 2 3-point attempts away and focus that on something else that you do great. And we saw Isaiah Stewart's numbers kind of stabilize and his 3-point percentage jumped. Like over his last 5 or 6, he was upwards of over 30-something odd percent from 3. You know, so I what you're saying is where I believe things are going to settle. I believe that maybe the type of player that Saddiq Bey is and the type of wing and powerful we need from just a fit.
Mm-hmm.
Saddiq Bey long term is probably best in that 6-man role where he's able to come in and operate. He's going to have to be able to get his game into a place where offense is something that's more readily available to him, much more quicker.
I
Than
think
go
it's just,
ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I think this is where you're seeing like, part of having the young core and part of having all this young talent is slotting it and figuring out where they fit and how they fit best, right? Like I know coming into this season, if you would have said that, like, oh well, like Sadiq's gonna be coming off the bench, I know all of us would have turned our heads and go like, wait, what? Like what's going on here? But like if you look at the composition of this team and like what fits best, especially like for them to like compete on a night-to-night basis, like you need length at a certain point. Like that has to matter at a certain point.
Length
and
defense.
Well, and the other thing too,
and like
shout out Booner, man. Appreciate you joining in. But I think another piece of it as well is, just having that veteran presence in the lineup that just isn't there, especially, like with, and we don't really know, like with the with the lineup currently, like I'm not sure if Saddiq's gonna, be back in the starting lineup. It actually looks like according to James, it looks like the starting lineup for tonight is going to be Hayes, Bey, Bojan, Bagley, and Duren. So it looks like Detroit's going to be going big, and it looks like Jaden Ivey is going to be coming out with the second unit tonight.
That's who I believe. That's who I believe needed his own time. I thought he needed that more than Saddiq Bey. I thought that Cade Cunningham and Saddiq Bey showed that they could actually play together. Their styles, their game, they just kind of complement each other. It allowed Cade to kind of worry about more or less focus on the pick and roll, and Saddiq Bey was a really, really good outlet for him. But Jaden Ivey is too dynamic a talent to put on the bench long term. You just can't do that. I believe this right now is just trying to feel out different lineups. Casey talked about it. He said that the previous lineup wasn't set in stone. He was like, he wishes it didn't, Stu didn't get injured because they really liked the way that it started off with the big lineup. He said that their defense looked way more solid as well. And it's interesting because I've been able to ask him these questions as the season has gone along, really focusing in on the big man this year. That's what I wanted to be able to look at. We started off the season saying we're going to be really focusing on Stu as an X factor. And so he was excited about that. When Stu got hurt, it kind of messed some things up as it related to what they wanted to do. But he did say, he was like, no, we're still going to be changing that lineup combination, Will, because I think Casey's showing he's not stuck in his ways. He's not. This is something different. This is not necessarily even the Toronto build. This is something a little bit different that if you look at it with the blinders off, if you look at it just for its true authenticity, this is a rebuild. This is supposed to be like the process, but we got our Joel Embiid early. We got Duren, Ivey, Cade within the first 3 years. Then you have Isaiah Stewart, Saddiq Bey, Killian Hayes in your first year, who can wind up becoming really, really solid foundational pieces for the rest of this restoration. And the reason why I believe they call it restoration is because it's not a process. This is a little bit faster, I think. I believe that they got their pieces faster. You can augment this team with free agents and trade pieces much better, much faster than before, So it's going to be interesting, to see what they do until they get Cade back. I know that was something we were going to talk about, what was the best lineup that you want to see before we get into these rookies right before the game starts. But, we were talking about, what's the lineup that you do want to see before Cade gets back. I know Pistons talk. Do you have that link?
Yeah.
Talk about it. I'll put it up now. No, Pistons talk. Shout out Anthony from Woodward Sports. He was saying he wanted to see actually Jaden Ivey at the point guard, Alec Burks at shooting guard, Bojan Bogdanovic at the 3. Sean is a lifesaver. Marvin Bagley at the 4, Jalen Duren at the 5. Man, look, what lineups do you guys want to see when before K gets back? And then what's that lineup you want to see when K gets back? Sean, what are you looking for, man?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm open to any lineup combinations that that are out there, but I think the big thing is finding that right rhythm of the ability to score on the offensive end, people who aren't liabilities on that side of the ball, and then also guys who can hold their own on the defensive end. I think that's been the big thing with this team is just being able to find that right lineup with that balance of defensive, that like defensive fortitude and offensive firepower. Right. And I think especially, like going into the West Coast stretch where, you're going to really need, guys to produce on both ends, especially when you're going to be playing some of the best players in the league. I mean, it's confirmed that Kawhi Leonard's coming back and playing tonight against Detroit. Right. So like, when you're going up against the best of the best, you need guys to produce. And I'm not against, I know everyone's like, I'm on Twitter right now, and I just saw someone call Dwane Casey a quote unquote war criminal for putting Jaden Ivey, having him come off the bench, which guys, it's just a 1-game move and it's an experimentation to see if we can get this second unit some life because how dormant it's been to start the season. I think, we're going to look at it. I think we're going to be in a situation when guys start coming back.
Yeah. You know what? So this answer here, I like Chuck's thinking here. I get it. The thought process is that Ivey's still going to get his minutes, but for a team that needs to just start fast. This is the problem, though. The Pistons haven't been able to start fast with Ivey. They haven't been able to, for whatever reason, utilize his athletic ability, his speed to really let that be what this team rides on. And I believe that's because he's just a rookie. I think he's still learning the game. You look at this team maybe 3 years from now, I believe he's the one starting off. I believe that 3 years from now, this is a team, 3 years from now, it's a team that is starting off with Cade and Duren pick and rolls. Almost similar to Summer League. What was it? Jaden Ivey cut into the middle. Killian Hayes passed it to him. He tossed it up to Jalen Duren for a lob. That's what I believe we get in the future. But right now, these guys are trying to figure out, like Jalen Duren, I see him running into the lane, looking like he's free, and then he gets hit from somebody on the backside, and he's just looking like, yo, man, where'd that come from? So though he has like a lot of natural ability, there's some aspects of the game that I know Ivey and Duren are still learning. Aspects of the game that we know Cade, Saddiq, and Killian are still learning. And as they get that down pat, that's when I think we're going to see these lineups really, really, really start to stabilize. Right now, with Ivy, it's just about until K gets back, man, getting these minutes. What's good, brother?
Clarification from James Edwards III. Just told Ivy is starting, not Duren. So it's Pistons going with Ivy, Hayes, Bojan, Bey, and Bagley.
There we go.
Say that one more time, brother. That's the beauty of it, folks.
Say that one more time.
It is. All right, the starting lineup: Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, Bojan Bogdanovic, Saddiq Bey, Marvin Bagley. So with that, I mean, I think that's a pretty decent lineup as far as spacing, as far as length, as far as defensive versatility, as far as athleticism goes. I'm interested to see, how that lineup does competing wise. I'm interested to see what how Marvin Bagley is going to do as the starting five, as far as that defensive presence in the interior. Yeah. I think he's shown some improvement in his defensive instincts. I think he's gotten a little better on that end. But I still think without Isaiah Stewart, you're going to see them bleeding on that end, in the interior.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this. Look, this is the one thing I'll tell you guys about what we try to do. We try to make sure that we listen a lot to what these guys are saying, just to see if these guys are, the coaches, the front office, the players, to see if they're BSing or not. And I'll tell you the truth, the Pistons, they do the things that they say they want to do. You thought it was strange to see Bey at the 2, Sean. When you and I first started doing content together, one of the things that Dwane Casey was saying was that they were working on Saddiq Bey potentially playing the 2 this year, and they wanted him to slim down, work on his handles, work on the pick and roll game. But they lost their pick and roll big, and Saddiq Bey came into the season, improved, but it just didn't look the part, and they rectified that quick. I've noticed this organization is one to rectify things quick. People complain about Killian, but it's like, hey, they put him on the bench in year 2. Who does that with their 7th pick and then drafted 2 guards after that? Saddiq Bey is on the bench in year 3 in certain regards. They're like, hey, we're going to tinker here. And the guys that deserve to be there, we see, are going to continue to be the ones they put there. And that's our lineup. But I know we got a few minutes before the game starts. I wanted to be able to talk about Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, the sensations that they've been. I know those 2 guys were in the starting lineup, in the top 10, in the top 5, I believe, rookie rankings, in the rookie power rankings.
Yeah,
man, what I want to see out of Jaden Ivey tonight is exactly what I was talking about. Can he be that guy that just takes off as soon as tip-off goes? Just be the Energizer Bunny, bro. Be the Tasmanian Devil, shot out of a cannon, and just go. Don't wait for nobody else, because when you look at this lineup, who is he waiting for? The only person he should be waiting for in this lineup is Bagley. And that pick and roll should already be called, bro, before the ball is inbounded. Bagley just stands straight up at the free throw line, wait until he crosses half court, lay somebody out, and go to work. I mean, he's going to have Bogey and Bey on opposite wings to support him with hopefully some good 3-point shooting. He's going to have Hayes out there to support him as a lead point guard. But I want to see them really, really, really go through Ivy. I really want to see that to start this game.
Yeah, I just saw someone that said, "Oh, I hate this coach. He can't settle on a lineup for shit." Well, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. When you're losing games in the NBA, the last thing that you do is stay the same. Because if you stay the same when you're losing on a consistent basis, you know what that's called, Kool-Aid? The definition of insanity. And you know what the definition of insanity is? Is when you do the same over and over again, expecting things to change. Now, you may be asking yourself at home, Sean, maybe you're the one that's the definition of insanity, because you come here each and every week trying to defend Dwane Casey in the same manner against the same people and the same points with the same circumstances. And I would say you're right. But also I would say, come on, man, they're going to adjust with their lineups, especially going on a road trip, especially looking for their first road win, which, by the way, that's another thing that we got to talk about. We still got to get our first road win.
And why is the lineup changed? It's not even because necessarily things are losing. They're losing because they're injured. Like Stu got hurt. You got to change the lineup. Hey, gets hurt. You change the lineup. Bagley got hurt at the beginning of the season. You got to change the lineup. And like I told y'all, Dwane Casey, you got to think of it this way with Dwane Casey. He's not even a figurehead of a coach. He's a guide right now. The organization knows where they want to go, and they're asking Dwane Casey to get the team to that position. That's what they're trying to do. That's player development. That's making sure that these guys understand the style of play. That's making sure you identify your leaders. That's making sure that these other guys become still somewhat valuable. A lot of times in the past, if our draft picks didn't work out, we just write them off. It just is what it is. Troy Weaver actually said, you know what? I'm getting something for Bruce Brown and Luke Kennard. Y'all think he's not getting something for Killian Hayes or Saddiq Bey if he has to? And that's because Casey and his organization has put an emphasis on making sure that where you are in this rebuild is at the bottom, man. You're at the base. Get these young players right. So he's doing things a little bit differently than we've seen. He was brought here to win now. In the middle of that term, everything switched to, hey, we're just in a rebuild. So I've noticed he had to break some of his old habits.
By the way, he was one of the forces, by the way, that helped bring that rebuild to be. The rebuild that Tom Gores was resisting, the rebuild that the franchise as a whole was resisting. He was one of the influential voices that said, guys, it's time. We need to go in that direction.
Yep. Yeah. And I see Casey effectively trying to break out of certain old habits. And it's not necessarily habits. If he's a successful coach for a long time of a winning team, then you come here and you're coming to a team that had some aspect of playoff potential, and then all of a sudden the wheels just fall off and you're called to just, hey, coach this squad. So I'm glad that instead of it being like some of the previous rebuilds where it was just like, hey, we got these draft picks, dang, they didn't work out. Hey, we got this coach, just coach the team. Like, well, where are we going? What are we doing? You know, how many coaches avoided here? Troy Weaver avoided here as GM. Coaches avoided coming to Detroit because of the situation at hand. You know, so with what I see out of Casey, he's helping to usher and move this team in a direction that, honestly, one day I could see Casey being moved into the front office because of the rapport that he has with the players, because of not just here, but around the league, man. The rapport that he has with other front offices. And he's just a good guy, a great ambassador for the city. And as it relates to basketball knowledge, he has a ton of it, guys. You go and you look at Dwane Casey's history as it relates to basketball. Do I believe that there's certain aspects of the game, of his game, and of his, what he's bringing to it, plays, sets, rotations, lineups that can be changed, tweaked? Yes, I 100% believe so. But do I believe this is the year? No, guys, come on. What if they go out next year and add 3 or 4 players? What they're working on this year is to make sure that these guys, who we're going to have moving forward, they got decisions to make on 3 or 4 guys. They got decisions to make on future lineups, because you can't go this year and spend money and not know what you have already on this squad. That's like old Pistons teams. We're just going to sign a Josh Smith and make it work. No, right. You can't do that. You can't do that. So this team is taking a little bit more methodical approach to a real rebuild. And honestly, it's a lot more fun than any of us could have bargained for, because we get to watch guys like Cade, Ivey, and Duren, and then talk about guys like Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and Killian Hayes like they've been here for 6 or 8 years. Oh, man, they're just not panning out. These guys have just started year 3.
Right. Yeah, we're still in the very beginning of this thing. And, it's like, even though losing sucks, and even though like they like, even though we haven't seen the progress from this team, at least not as early as we might have wanted to, or coming out the gates with as much fire as this, like, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. And that's another thing is and like, you also have to look at other teams throughout the league that are rebuilding and that are going through the same things. And you have to like, for example, you look at a team like Houston. Do you want to see a team that should be discouraged, that questions if there's like progress or anything going on there? Houston, there's like arguments on the bench like once a week. There's like genuine cracks in the foundation of their culture.
But this team is a family, bro. And I like what they're trying to build, because it feels like how we are off the court, how we are kind of on the sidelines.
Like, what you want to see from a young rebuilding team is, even when you are in the losing column each night, even when you are struggling, and even when your team is like not putting it together on the win column every night, you know what they are doing? They're competing. They're getting closer. they're putting themselves in these games. And a lot of times when Detroit goes down 14 plus, how often do they end up, bringing it within single digits?
You're right.
Right? Like that's what you want. That's what you want to see in a like the thing that you want to see in a young team when they're struggling and when they're losing games. Do they have resolve? Do they fight? Do they get better? And are they putting themselves in better and better positions to win? They are. They just are.
You know why? Because those are the guys that deserve to be here when the next era of Pistons playoff basketball starts. Mm-hmm. This time, weed them out. Get anybody out that doesn't need to be here. And guess what? You're going to realize that now the foundation of your team has to be these first 3 years of draft picks. And then this fourth year that he's going to get. It's going to be a decent draft pick.
It's like, you ever see the SpongeBob movie?
What's up, bro?
When they go, then we're going to go ahead and weed them out.
Let's go. That's what it's got to be. That's what this is. Like you got to change your mind into the mind of Troy Weaver. I'm going to keep saying it. This is the Troy Weaver year. This is his season. This is his most important season and off season coming up right now. The Cade Cunningham one, he said, look, we still did our due diligence, but Cade was the guy. But everything else up to this point has been some stuff that's been what we're still waiting to see. We're still waiting to see what that first draft is going to be. We're gonna obviously we like Ivey and Duren, but we got to still wait and see. But this offseason, this next year coming up, is the team that we should realistically be able to see competing for a play-in at a very minimum. And the guys that don't deserve to be here, you think he's going to go and cash out on a couple free agents or go and trade to acquire some guys into their capital? You think like they did with Bojan, you think that they're going to do that and put them around a bunch more trash? They can't do that again.
Well, even then, let's look
none of it's trash
realistically
now, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to go and put it around a team that's not necessarily ready to win now.
Right. But like, if you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference and we actually look at like who's where and like why, let's take a look for a second at like where the Pistons are and like where they stack up, because like obviously people are going to look at the fact that we're at the bottom and they're going to get upset. But like, let's break it down. First of all, the two teams that were like the couple teams that we're with here in the conference are both teams that are like in a similar spot as us, right? They just are. I think the other thing to notice here, the two teams in front of us have Kevin Durant, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, like Nikola Vucevic. That good of a caliber of basketball is just outside of the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. And teams that are in the play-in right now, the Heat, who just made the conference finals last year. The 76ers, a team that everyone's expecting to be in the Eastern Conference finals. The New York Knicks, the Washington Wizards, two teams that both have high caliber players. Now, the Pacers, the reason why they're here is because, simply put, Tyrese Halliburton's literally having a season that we haven't seen in the NBA in years. He's having a 20-10 season, shooting 40+% from the field. The other thing is that Indiana, even though they're rebuilding and even though they rip things down to the studs, they've had a culture of winning for a number of years. Like, even though they haven't been like winning like a lot of games, they've been consistently winning enough to be in the playoffs or in the play-in or be in a picture. Like, they have winning expectations there. They have a winning culture. And in addition, it's easier to slot in guys like a Halliburton or a Mathurin with a guy like Rick Carlisle and just get things rolling, right? Also, they're going to come down to earth at some point and be closer in the standings with us. The reality of it is that what we're seeing play out right now is the fact that the NBA is just so damn good this year.
Yeah,
like,
and
the league is been injured. So good.
Those are two factors. They've been injured, and the league is better. And why that matters is because in this type of league, if the league in the East specifically is better, that means that an injury sets you back exponentially. It sets you, because you have to, when you get these guys back, what's your chemistry? When you get these guys back, does Ivey know how to do the pick and roll with Bagley? Does Duren know how to play on the court with Bagley? We don't know. You know what I'm saying? So not until you get these back. We were talking about this Cade and Ivey, will they know how to play together? You know, these are some of the questions we had coming into the season. When Cade gets back, even though we're going to get some, Ivey, Cade and Stu back eventually, some point, Cade, I would assume over the next week or two. I'm waiting for an update. I know initially it was 3 to 4 games he was going to miss. And Isaiah Stewart will be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. I assume he'll be back in maybe about a month. So we're looking at middle of December that we could see both of those guys back, barring no other injuries. We could see this team healthy for the first time with Alec Burks, with Marvin Bagley, to go with the lineup that we saw starting the season off. I believe we're going to see some good things. This team went on a run last year when they got healthy with starters Kelly Olynyk and Jeremy Grant, bro. Starter level players that came back from injury. K came back from injury, and this team looked decent, about 500 basketball. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to overdo it like these guys were like 20 and 10. About 500 basketball is what they would look like when they got healthy. I believe this year when they get healthy, you're going to see a much better team, a more polished team, because they're young guys you got to depend on. Their game is a little bit more mature. When you do look at Saddiq Bey, when you do look at Isaiah Stewart, when you do look at Killian Hayes when he's on, their games are a little bit more mature. When you look at Cade Cunningham, he came in already as an 8-year veteran. You know what I'm saying? And you got Ivey and Duren and these other guys on the squad as well. You get them in, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. You're gonna see a little bit more of what the squad, what the organization was talking about. Because look, no matter what you want to say about Troy Weaver and Coach Casey saying that they're ready to compete every night and having belief in their guys, your players, your Detroit Pistons came into this season saying that they were ready to compete. Your Detroit Pistons came into the season stating that they were ready to try and compete for playoffs. I'm talking about guys like Cade, Jaden, Ivey, Duren, Bags. These guys said they're ready to win. Bagley, he didn't take the money because he's trying to, suit up for another couple years of rebuilds. He's trying to win. He's trying to prove himself. So, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to this matchup of Hayes and Ivey starting together. But let me see. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Shout out to Booner once again. We're going to have to get him on one of these table talks, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We just appreciate you all tuning in. The game, it does look like they are getting on the court about to start, so we do want to let you all go and enjoy the action. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in and being here for Table Talk. Be sure, if you want to join the conversation, join in the comment section down below. Also, be sure you follow us on Twitter while you still can, because you'll never know when you just won't have the opportunity to anymore. You can follow me at Sean Appcourt. You can follow my guy at Detroit Kool-Aid. But of course, folks, we're going to be here ready to cover all things Pistons basketball. You're going to make sure you're following us and keep posting on the awesome content we have coming for you, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy tonight's game against the Clippers. We'll catch you guys next time here on World War Pistons Table Talk.
What is this talk of Kool-Aid and Murph? Tell me! Tell me!
Just tell me!
I can't wait, man. The new content is going to be so dope.
Heck yeah, man.
Hey, shout out Carl. Can't wait to get the whole crew back in here. It's going to be dope.
And
man. Last thing, before we go, just got to get this on the stream. Listen, anybody in the state, anybody that wants to come to the state to do this, we're looking at potentially doing a couple official watch parties. I'm going to be reaching out to a couple people. Last year, we did a watch party at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak. Let me know what you guys are thinking. We want to get the crew together. We want to get the guys together. We want our chat to actually be in the building with us. So let us know. Let us know what you guys are thinking. If you see this later, and I'm going to bring this up on future streams, let us know. Peace out, y'all.
Catch y'all later.